our celebration for 2020 Juneteenth. We are going live on Facebook. And I would like to turn it over to the chair of the Black History Commission, Jennifer Martin.
Thank you, Councilwoman Cartwright. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our 2020 Town of Brookhaven Juneteenth celebration. We are thrilled that you could be here and join us. We would like to open our program by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And Supervisor Romaine, if you would please lead us in the pledge when we see the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. So we are here today to celebrate a milestone in American history, to celebrate Emancipation Day and what it means to our country. My name is Jennifer Martin. It's my pleasure to serve as the chairperson of the Town of Brookhaven Black History Commission. And on behalf of the commission members that you see here, our town board, our supervisor, Edward Romaine, our council liaison to the Black History Commission, Councilwoman Valerie Cartwright, we'd like to thank you for being here. This certainly is a Juneteenth that has been like no other, as we deal and grapple with issues of racial justice in this country and dealing with the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd. Juneteenth has taken on an even more special significance this year. And one of the things that we can celebrate, in addition to celebrating the Emancipation Day, we can also celebrate that this year, Juneteenth is being seen and considered by so many people. Juneteenth was a holiday that may not have been known as widely as perhaps we would have liked it to have been known. And so there is so much attention on Juneteenth and what the significance is to American history, not just Black history, but American history and the milestone that it marks in our country. So with that, I would just like to say that we are mindful of where we are at this time, and we would like to allow some space for some reflection at the end of our program. And as always, it is our goal to provide the community with an engaging, educational, cultural event. So with that, we will go ahead and I'd like to introduce the members of the Black History Commission. When I state your name, if you could please just raise your hand. We do have Dr. Corinne Graham, Miles Green, Dr. Georgette Grigg-Key, Clayton Hudson, Leah Jefferson, Lorraine Richardson McCrae, and we do have a few members, Janet Batten, Charlotte Presley, and Tracy Todd Hunter, who were unable to be here, but we are thankful for their contributions to the commission. I would also like to acknowledge that we do have two of our town council members who are here with us for this Juneteenth celebration. I'd like to acknowledge Councilman Neil Foley, who is here with us today. Thank you, Councilman Foley, for being here. And also Councilman Kevin Laval, who is also here. So at this time, Supervisor Romaine, I would like to turn it over to you for some opening remarks.
Thank you very much. And I'm looking at Jennifer's face on the screen, and I just want to say thank you to her and the entire Black History Commission for the job they have done in the town. Juneteenth, it hasn't been a forgotten history in the town of Brookhaven. Every Juneteenth for the last 5-6 years, the town has sponsored a picnic in which we've invited everyone at the Longwood Estate, free food, free drink, and great conversation, good friendship. And I want to thank Jennifer and all the Black History Commission for their work that they've done, not only in the Juneteenth picnic, Black History Month, but Black history throughout the year, reminding us that we're a nation that have come from a lot of different places and need to become one. She and her commission has done a great job. Juneteenth is extremely important. 1619 looms as we read our history books, was the first time slaves were introduced from Africa into Jamestown, one of the English colonies that eventually become the United States. And we debated during our war for independence, and we debated when we wrote the Constitution about slavery. And it was a debate that we didn't win, but went on. And finally, Civil War comes, and we fight, particularly after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued January 1st, 1863 by President Lincoln. One of the goals of that war now become to end slavery. And Juneteenth figures because the war wasn't over in one day. Lee may have surrendered on April 9th, 1865, but other Confederate units fought on. And it wasn't until June 19th to be specific, that year, that federal troops landed in the last area of the Confederacy, Texas, to state that slaves are free. And then after that, obviously, even before that, the 13th Amendment, ending slavery, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, all of which have ensured rights. And we started on a journey on June of 1865, a journey that has lasted 155 years and has some starts and stops along the way, but we're getting there. This nation is far from perfect, but we all have to come together. We all have to recognize our uniqueness and celebrate that. So, to the members of the Black History Commission, thank you for what you do. And this is a promise from myself, and we have the majority of the town board. We have 3 councilmen and myself here, that Juneteenth and the struggle of the African American community will not be forgotten and is part of our history. And I can't wait for the day that it is part of our past history, that we've moved beyond history, that we all come together, regardless of race, creed, religion, whatever, ethnicity, and we recognize the uniqueness of each and every human being. We show the respect and dignity that every person is entitled to. So let me just end by saying thank you. This is a celebration that reminds us of our past, and I hope in the near future that it will be part of our ancient past, and we will move beyond history to where we should be as a nation and as a people. God bless you and thank you. And by the way, what would it be without a proclamation? We have issued a proclamation, and thank you to the help of the Black History Commission, and particularly to Councilwoman Valerie Cartwright. We've issued a proclamation where we proclaimed yesterday as Juneteenth Day throughout the town of Brookhaven to recognize its historic significance. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Romaine. Thank you for your remarks, and thank you for the proclamation solidifying that the town recognizes Juneteenth annually, and thank you for your continuing support. We very much appreciate it, and we know that this work would not be able to move forward in the way that it has without the support. So thank you.
Next year we'll do the picnic.
Okay. Thank you. So we would like to have an interactive session. We have some interactive components today. So I would just like to ask everyone, if you have your cell phone, if you would please just log into www.menti, that's MENTI.com, www.menti.com, and we did put that in the group chat. You should see that there. And we are going to have some interactive components for you to participate today. So if you'll just log into menti.com, at this point, I would like to ask our commission liaison, who has, since taking office, diligently supported the efforts of the Black History Commission and promoted their efforts to spread and share Black history, which is American history, throughout the town of Brookhaven. So Councilwoman Cartwright, if you would please give us some remarks as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. You have served as a wonderful commission chair, and I would be remiss if I did not thank Leah Jefferson, who was serving as the commission chair when I first took office. So Juneteenth is a critical moment in American history, and that has already been stated. It marks the time of transition in this country from a time when most Black people were enslaved, did not have equal rights, and were treated as property, to a time that we acknowledge as a country that people are not property. This is a human rights milestone in our country. This is a tremendously important moment that speaks to who we are as Americans and what we say that we stand for based on our stated principles in our founding documents, such as the Constitution. On June 19th, 1865, slaves in Galveston, Texas, received the news that the war had ended and the enslaved people were now free. In fact, the Emancipation Proclamation became official on January 1st, 1863. So many slaves across the country learned of their freedom several months and years after it was official. In many ways, there are clear parallels to today, 2020. The slaves in Texas were free and had been free under the law for several years, but they were still treated as slaves and were not provided their equal rights guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. Today, although slavery has clearly been abolished, many Black and brown people still face different treatment, although the law says we are equal. The law provides for due process and equal justice, but many Black people and many brown people in America are not afforded these rights. This is due in large part to the major institutions of this country, which have a history and a legacy of systemic racism. In 2020, in the wake of the George Floyd murder and many other deaths of unarmed Black and brown people, Juneteenth takes on a special significance. As we grapple with racial justice and systemic racism in the United States, we should all be reminded about our past and how it impacts us clearly in the present. Systemic racism is alive and well, and we must take steps to address it, or we will never have true equality in this country. So remember that as we celebrate Juneteenth today, which is the emancipation of Black people, we remember that Juneteenth is American history, not just Black history. It is incumbent upon all of us to celebrate, remember, reflect, and recommit to taking action to supporting the ideals that this country was founded upon. Again, I want to thank you for joining us today and hope that you enjoy this celebration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Cartwright. So we'd like to start off by getting some feedback from our attendees today. If you logged into menti.com, we are going to just do a word cloud to see, what does Juneteenth mean to you? If you log into menti.com, please enter the code 717614. That's code 717614. And Councilwoman Cartwright is pulling that up. And while she's pulling that up, while we're looking at what it means to people, we have a robust conversation that's going on. Certainly we're getting comments from the chat, which we will try to bring up as we go through the program. So what does Juneteenth mean to me? Freedom, joy, opportunity, frustration. Someone asking again for the code. The code is 717614. We'll give you a few more seconds healing. We'll give a few more seconds for this exercise. Struggle, recognition, strength, freedom for all, the pursuit of happiness. Thank you all so much for this feedback. And what is clearly evident is that the biggest, the most consistent theme of what does Juneteenth mean to us is freedom. So thank you all for participating. With that, we would like to just share with you some of our past Juneteenth celebrations. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman Cartwright, who is doing the technical work today.
Just a little bit of technical difficulty. Just give me 1 second. Thank you.
We're a patient group. So while Councilwoman Cartwright is pulling up our slideshow of past Juneteenth events, the commission would like to just note that in this historic time in this country, what we have seen over the last few weeks is a number of companies and corporations and organizations who are acknowledging the significance of Juneteenth, and they're educating their employees and their staff and their networks about Juneteenth and about the history and what it means. And some are offering paid holidays as a way of recognizing the importance of Juneteenth as an American holiday. And so we've seen a resurgence of interest in Juneteenth this year because of the time period that we're in this country. And it's just incredible to see that.
Okay, I think we're almost there. Okay. Let me share this screen. Yes. Okay.
I've been walking with my face turned to the sun. Weight on my shoulders, a bullet in my gun. Oh, I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case I have to run. I do what I can when I can, while I can for my people. While the clouds roll back and the stars fill the night, that's when I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun begins to shine, we're gonna start moving towards that salvation. And I'll fight with the strength that I got until I die. So I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. And I know what's around the bend might be hard to face 'cause I'm alone. And I just might fail, but Lord knows I'll try. Just as fill up the sky. Stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Can you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. Do you hear freedom calling, calling me to answer? Gonna keep on keeping on. I'm gonna stand up, take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home, far across the river. I hear freedom calling, calling me to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. I can feel it in my bones.
That was amazing. And although we can't hear it, I see a lot of clapping. So even though we can't celebrate in person as we have in so many past years, we are very thankful to the town for their commitment to Juneteenth each and every year. And we'd like to also share some of the past, we would also like to share some past accounts that go even further back in history across the country. And so with that, I'd like to ask Clayton Hudson to give us our first reading of our first Juneteenth account. And I'm seeing a lot of comments in the chat. Comments, we wish we were all together at the Longwood Estate. Juneteenth is American history, not just Black history. Thank you for those comments.
Okay. All right. The first Juneteenth celebrations were especially important. Many African Americans were enslaved, participated in the celebrations, and passed on their experiences to the next generation. In Parsons, Kansas, in 1895, the Parsons Weekly Blade told that they celebrated the 13th anniversary of the emancipation by indulging in various pleasures, followed by sumptuous repasts. Then came a series of speeches about the importance of Juneteenth and the experience of slavery, still fresh for many African Americans. After speeches, the celebrations continued with an animated game of baseball.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. And I'd actually like to ask Dr. Corinne Graham for a second early Juneteenth reading.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. The reading is from Texas 1937 Juneteenth Essays in African American Folklore by Francis Edward Abernethy, 1996. But Juneteenth celebration were much more than a Saturday night jollification. A Brenham, Texas celebrant told me that Juneteenth began as a quiet and safe religious service of Thanksgiving. It started in the church. The 19th of June celebration really started as a camp meeting, a church meeting. They prayed and sang and stuff like that. And it developed into a good time thing, you know. It was just a Thanksgiving. It was really for the Negro. It was a method of Thanksgiving as it started out. That's how they started out. Now this ball game and this dancing and the stuff came later. But the 19th of June was a Thanksgiving for having been freed. So that's the history of it, the 19th of June. Hogan.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. Thank you. So before we have additional readings, we'd like to have another interactive session with our attendees. First, I would like to ask if there's anyone who would like to participate in the hat contest, please just make a note in the chat so that we can recognize you. And before we do that, we would like to bring back what is always an ever popular Juneteenth staple, our trivia game. And in past years, we've been told that each year the trivia gets increasingly more difficult. So this year, we wanted to go back to basics and make sure that our trivia is something that both old and new participants will be able to join. So please, if you will go to www.menti.com, and if you will enter the code 889334, code 889334, and if you'll see on the screen, it gives you instructions on how to play the quiz. So you're gonna, I'm hearing some background noise. If everyone could mute themselves if they're not speaking, thank you. Our instructions are on the slide. You'll enter your nickname if you are participating, and the question will appear, and then you will answer before the countdown ends. And if you answer wrong, you won't get any points, but those that, we will have a leaderboard that'll show who's winning, and we will reveal the winner at the end. So Councilwoman Cartwright will let us know when we're ready to enter. If you're at menti.com. Okay, the quiz is right now. What are the colors of the Juneteenth flag? First question. What are the colors of the Juneteenth flag? Time is up. Okay. Aha. All right, so we had quite a few that got the answer correct, and we had an equal number of wrong answers. We can proceed to the next question.
If you can just read the correct answer for those that are just listening.
Oh, thank you, Councilwoman Cartwright. Yes. What are the colors of the Juneteenth flag? Red, white, and blue. Okay, we are heading to our next question. What do the colors of the Juneteenth flag represent? Players, take a look at your options. You have 11 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds to select an answer. 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Okay, wow. That is fantastic. 100% of our players got the answer correct. This is clearly a very engaged, informed group. What do the colors of the Juneteenth flag represent? Slaves, freed slaves, and their descendants are Americans. Great job, guys. I'm getting a lot of comments in the chat. People are having a lot of fun with this. Okay, our next question in this round of trivia, because we will have 2 rounds, so if you're not participating in this round, why don't you try the next round? What does the 5-pointed the center of the Juneteenth flag represent? What does the 5-pointed star in the center of the Juneteenth flag represent? 9 seconds, 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and your time is up. All right. And with the most answers, Texas. That is correct. The 5-pointed star in the center of the Juneteenth flag represents Texas, which is where the last slaves learned that they were free in 1865, following the Emancipation Proclamation being issued 2 years earlier. Great job, players. So I believe we have 2 more questions in this round, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, our next question, where did many slaves wait to receive the news of emancipation? Where did many slaves wait to receive the news of the emancipation? By rivers, at home, at church? None of the above are your options. All right. And by and large, most of our participants identified the correct answer, which is at church. And I just want to say, for everyone that's playing, whether you get the answer right or you get the answer wrong, it's a wonderful learning opportunity. And every year that we play trivia, we all learn something that we didn't know before. So thank you to all of our players. And we have one last question in this round before we show the leaderboard. Oh, we are at the leaderboard. Okay. All right. It's a tie. Okay. So we have 3 different, let's see. Okay, let's see. It looks like we have multiple different winners, Sakura, CDW, and Bell. So we are going to thank you everyone for playing in this round. And when we end the next round, we will give you more information about the winners overall. Thank you so much. Great job, everybody. So with that, we will actually move right into our last early Juneteenth accounts. And I would like to ask our former chair, Ms. Leah Jefferson, to please share one of our last Juneteenth accounts, early accounts.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this wonderful occasion. The civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s yielded both positive and negative results for the Juneteenth celebrations. While it pulled many of the African-American youth away and into the struggle for racial equality, many linked these struggles to the historical struggles of their ancestors. This was evidenced by student demonstrators involved in the Atlanta Civil Rights Campaign in the early 1960s who wore Juneteenth freedom buttons. Again, in 1968, Juneteenth received another strong resurgence through the Poor People's March to Washington, D.C. Reverend Ralph Abernathy's call for people of all races, creeds, economic levels, and professions to come to Washington to show support for the poor. Many of these attendees returned home and initiated Juneteenth celebrations in areas previously absent of such activities. In fact, 2 of the largest Juneteenth celebrations founded after this march are now still being held in Milwaukee and Minneapolis.
Thank you, Leah. And to conclude our Juneteenth readings, I'd like to share a final reading for you from Juneteenth.com. And even though it was not written this year, it certainly reflects exactly where we are. Today, Juneteenth is enjoying a phenomenal growth rate within communities and organizations throughout the country. Institutions such as the Smithsonian, the Henry Ford Museum, and others have begun sponsoring Juneteenth-centered events. In recent years, a number of local and national Juneteenth organizations have arisen to take their place alongside older organizations, all with the mission to promote and cultivate knowledge and appreciation of African American history and culture. Today, Juneteenth celebrates African American freedom and achievement while encouraging continuous self-development and respect for all cultures.
Okay, looks like Jennifer may be having some difficulty with her connection. Jennifer, are you back? Okay, I think she was at the end of her account. Okay, so we are going to move forward. I believe the next item on the agenda is our presentation. I'm going to show you our video presentation that we did over the past week and a half or so related to the Mary Bell House. And after we finish, I believe Jennifer, hopefully she'll be able to connect and provide a few more comments on this.
I'm sitting here today on the front porch of the Mary E. Bell House. A number of years ago, I noticed a tree hit the roof, and I was concerned about the safety of the house. I then notified the Preservation League. The Preservation League sent two of their field reps here, Roberta Lane and Brent Legg, and they clarified that the house did qualify for state register status. They notified the New York State Parks. The New York State Parks then notified Brookhaven Town that this house had significant history embedded in it for generations, connecting the Black community here in Center Moriches.
Thank you for joining us for our annual Town of Brookhaven Juneteenth celebration. My name is Valerie Cartwright, and I am the Town Council Liaison to the Black History Commission. Now that you've learned some insightful information and have had an opportunity to see the historic Mary Bell House, we're going to take you inside so that we can learn a little bit more about the historic cooking of African American church suppers.
Today we're going to be featuring some recipes dating back to 1848, fried chicken and some sweet potato pie that was a favorite of Mary Bell's.
We will also be talking about traditional Juneteenth food that would have been eaten at that time. So let's get started.
You got it. All right, so would you like to start with the chicken? This recipe comes from Dr. Alice Ross's cookbook for the celebration of Brookhaven's history of 350th anniversary.
This is the only item that you'll see that will be modern because we're very careful to make sure that we're using
traditional foods.
Yes. So now this is the chicken that we will place in. It's important, Diane, to tell them what kind of oil we're frying this chicken in.
So the oil that we're using today in the cast iron stove is lard. Lard is a pig fat that has been rendered where all the meat material has been taken out of it. Do you hear the sizzling? That's the oil or the lard dancing. The chicken is put in the lard and it will stay there for about 20 minutes. We'll rotate it so it gets a golden brown.
And the reason why we're actually doing fried chicken today is because the Mary E. Bell House and the woman was very important to the local church here as one of the founders, and her generations of her ancestors were still involved. The church is still here today, and it's very important to keep that legacy going.
We're taking the chicken off now, and we're putting it on newspaper. Newspaper was not wasted. It was used to absorb the lard drippings. For those of you who have never made a crust from scratch, this is 2 cups of flour with some Crisco and or butter and a little bit of water. What you do is then you take some flour so it doesn't stick, you cool your dough, and you can roll it out into a wonderful circle. And I did learn that there was a sweet potato farm in Center Reach and Selden.
So these were boiled beforehand, and we're just gonna open up and scoop it out. Tell them what we also have. We have some milk in here, there's spices and seasonings that
There's
are in here.
evaporated milk, there's mace, nutmeg, and cinnamon. Also, we're going to be adding 1 stick of butter to that mixture. And then Georgette is going to use a masher, and she's going to mash it all together. It gets poured into the crust and then put into the stove.
So now I'm just making sure that we have some little, a little bit of orange juice in there. That's always the little extra touch that you need. And we're gonna have a little zest as well.
So here we have the sweet potato pie.
So, and just talking about these traditions, it just makes you think about just slowing down a little bit, you know? And that's what's really perfect about Juneteenth. This year, unfortunately, we can't have our gathering, but talking about these recipes bring you back to what it's really about.
Exactly.
Family, being together, talking about traditions, your background and your family, so that we don't forget. We always remember who we are, where we came from, and how much further we have to go.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. The African American culture and history is so rich with cultural traditions around food. And there is no sharing of stories about our culture without food being involved. And even though we cannot be together in person to try these amazing foods, we thank our resident historian, Dr. Georgette Greer-Key, and we also thank Diane Schwinn, a historic cook, for being at the Mary Bell House and for sharing the history of African American church suppers in local history, in Brookhaven history, Center Moriches, and also thanks for sharing more information about Mary Bell. And for those of you who do not know, the Mary Bell House is a property that is it is available for the public to see it and learn about the history of Mary Bell in Brookhaven. So thank you so much. And with that, we are going to go into our final trivia segment, followed by our hat competition, and that will close out our hat viewing, should I say. That will close out our program. So Councilwoman Cartwright is going to share her screen. And if you're for our players, www.menti.com. Enter the code 57718 for our players for round 2.
I would ask Jennifer that if you could just put that in the chat, just so everyone can get on. I think for the last quiz, not everyone was able to register in time.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let's see. 57718. 57718 is the code for our second round of our Juneteenth trivia for 2020.
Okay. And just let me know when we should get started and I'll start the quiz.
Okay, we're going to give our players just a few more minutes to not minutes, but a few more seconds to join in, and we can go ahead and get started, Councilwoman. Okay, that's 57718, anyone who still wants to play. First question, how do you know that a signed copy of Ralph must be, how would you know that a signed novel, historic must be a forgery? 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and the answer is the book was published posthumously. So there were some other answers. Ellison was famous for never signing books. That might be true, but the correct answer is the book was published after his death. Congratulations to most of the contestants who identified the right answer. Our next question. Who pledged to walk from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. in her 90s as a part of her work as an advocate for making Juneteenth a federal holiday? Miss Ruby Roberts, Miss Opal Lee, Miss Diamond Martin, or Miss Goldie Wright? Time's up. All right. And Miss Opal Lee is the correct answer. She is a well-known advocate for Juneteenth who we've never been closer than we are right now to that happening. So thank you to Miss Opal Lee for all of her efforts. And our next question. Where was the first Town of Brookhaven Juneteenth celebration held? Lester H. Davis House, the Longwood Estate, the Mary E. Bell House, Art Space. Where was the first Town of Brookhaven Juneteenth celebration held? 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, and time is up. Aha, so this was a trick question. Most people believe that the Town of Brookhaven Juneteenth celebration began at the Longwood Estate, but that was the second celebration. The first celebration was actually held in Art Space of Patchogue. And we have to thank our commission member, Tracy Todd Hunter, and his collective of colors who supported that initial Juneteenth event. So our first actual town event was Art Space Patchogue. And you actually saw that in the slideshow. The last pictures of the slides were of Art Space. Okay, so Juneteenth celebration held. Okay, 4 seconds, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. 2014. Aha, a lot of people guessed 1 year earlier, I see. It was 2014. Okay, I believe this, what popular social media platform company declared Juneteenth a company holiday this year? So this is current, very current. Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, or Instagram? And time's up. Many people correctly guessed the right answer, which was Twitter. I believe Twitter was the first social media platform to come out and say that they were declaring Juneteenth a company holiday. Okay. Aha. All right. So our next set of trivia winners, we have Lori Richardson McCrae from our committee. We have, I believe that's Mark Jackett in second place. Mark Jackett from Building Bridges Brookhaven, longtime Juneteenth and Town of Brookhaven Black History Commission supporter. I see Sakura, it looks like in third place. And so what I'm gonna ask you to do is, Kathleen is saying, I'm Sakura. It's my favorite flower. Thank you, Kathleen. And Shirley's saying, Mark, you did it again. I believe Mark was one of the trivia winners last year. So what we're gonna ask is, if you were in the top 3 places in either this second round of trivia or the first round of trivia, please send me an email, excuse me, not an email, send a chat directly to me and send your name and your address so that we can send you your prize. Thank you so much to everyone for participating in our trivia. Thank you for the education and for playing with us today. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our commission member, Ms. Lorraine Richardson McCrae, who is going to ask, we have 2 participants who are going to show us their hats, and she is going to speak with them about that. Thank you, Lori.
Hi, everybody, and happy Juneteenth. It is a celebration. I know that it's also, you know, a time that's marked with a lot of turmoil during that time, but we're celebrating right now. We're celebrating our coming into a new era. So this is our hat contest. So we know that Black churches are known for having some death-defying, show-stopping, you have to turn around and you can't sit behind them hats. So if anybody is contributing to our hat contest, this is your time to shine.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
And thank you, Lori. And what we're gonna do is, I believe that we have some attendees that have a hat. We have our councilwoman who's gonna put a hat on. And I believe we need to promote Shirley Singletary Hudson to a panelist, so her hat can also be viewed.
I'm doing that now. Give me 1 second.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Shirley Singletary Hudson should now be a panelist.
There she
I
is.
see her with her hat on. Look at Dr. Georgette Greer Keys with her fan. Okay. Is there anyone else that I should be promoting in for this hat contest?
Okay, if there's anyone else, please put yes into the chat right now. I believe that might be it. And as Lori mentioned, there is a strong history of hats and fans in the Black community churches. And there's also an even longer history of dressing up as a way of showing your pride and freedom. And our early accounts of the early emancipation celebrations say that many of the attendees of these celebrations dressed up and joined in parades or processions where they wore their finest attire to show their pride and their freedom and their joy at being emancipated. So thank you to each and every one of our hat contestants. And I believe what we would like to do, I see Leah Jefferson has returned with a hat. And I also see Shirley Singletary Hudson. So I believe, if I'm correct, commission members, that we'd actually like to acknowledge everyone that participated in our hat contest. Is that correct? We want to send something to everyone. Okay, so I'm just going to take a quick picture. So I have this. Thank you so much. You all look beautiful and amazing, and for sharing this cultural component of our history, both old and new. Getting a lot of applause from the chat. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. I hope everyone is able to see all the beautiful hats in their finery. Someone saying, we love it, applause, applause. Okay, so with that, we want to end this Juneteenth program, and we would be remiss if in this current time, if we didn't end it with a call to action. Juneteenth is a celebration. It's a celebration of emancipation. It's a celebration of a milestone of the country reaching a turning point and recognizing human rights in a way that we hadn't before. And so in order to continue with moving forward in that same vein, we must issue a call to action for what we can do as a community to address the issues that we still face in this country with respect to racial justice. And our councilwoman is going to put a screen on that is call to action and what we can do in this time to make a difference, and how can we move the needle forward with respect to some of the issues that we are facing today as a nation. So the first component is we can complete the census. And we have, we've been receiving a lot of information about the census. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we had some census, there were some challenges around the census due to the COVID pandemic. And so we encourage you to complete the census and have everyone you know complete the census. What else can you do? You can register to vote. You can vote and you can tell others to vote, and you can register others to vote. We certainly don't tell you how to vote. What matters is that you do exercise the right to vote, the right that so many people fought and died for, and that matters so much. So register people to vote. If you're not registered, register yourself and actually go out and vote. You can also support programs that are working to end healthcare disparities in Black and Brown communities and to equalize healthcare for all, regardless of race or regardless of economic status. And we're going to put up some flyers as we end that speak to this issue of some community health opportunities where people can go. They can either be tested for COVID, they could be tested for heart disease. There are a number of other programs that are looking to help deal with health disparities that exist in our communities. And finally, what can you do? You can support youth policy, you can support legislation, and you can support community initiatives that address racial justice and denounce racism. That is so important right now. One of the things that we're hearing from so many is that it's not enough not to be racist. In addition to not being racist, we all have to be anti-racist. And so these are all actions that you can and should take to support racial justice in this country. And I just want to mention a few comments from the chat. We have some outstanding information in the chat. Someone mentioned early voting is today. Absolutely, there is still early voting. Someone else mentioned you can complete the census online. Thank you so much, Shirley and Joel Diamond, for pointing those out. The census absolutely can be completed online. Dr. Georgette Greer-Key is saying we can get tested for COVID in our communities so that we are aware of what our COVID status is, and we can help protect our communities. I believe Councilwoman Cartwright is going to show some additional flyers. And also there is a June 24th, I believe, COVID testing at the Boys and Girls Club. Here we are showing a flyer with respect to being tested for heart disease, which is critically important in the Black community. And feel free to take a picture of this and share it with everyone.
I'll put that on in a second. I just wanted to include, because it was the next flag that you were going to put up, the early voting sites that are here. And I have that on the screen right now. So you can take a picture of that if you need. Tomorrow is the last day for early voting. And if you give me another moment, I will be able to put back on the June 24th screening. while I'm pulling this together, I'd like Dr. Georgette Greer-Keys to start to close us out. And we will close out with the flyer of the screening that will be happening on June 24th. Dr. Georgette Greer-Keys, I'm going to turn that over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed the programming that the Commission has provided to you. I want to thank our chair lady, Jennifer Martin. Let's give her the snaps, or you can give her a happy hand. And also just thank our supervisor, Ed Romaine, happy hands or snaps. And thank the Commission and everyone for the great job that we have done. So now we can say that it cannot be done in the midst of us all having to learn and deal with technology. So let's just all give ourselves a round of applause, snaps, hands, or whatever. We are very awesome. And so we brought this programming to you. So I'm just very happy that in this challenging time that we were able to do it. It's very important for us to realize that we are done dying. We need to be tested. And this is an initiative that we're bringing to you from our county executive, the town of Brookhaven, the NAACP, and the Greater Bellport Coalition to have screening for health, stroke. You know, we have the comorbidities to be more inclined to have COVID. So we need to have testing for stroke and heart attack, and also the antibodies for COVID. So we're going to be doing this initiative with Northwell on June 24th at the Boys and Girls Club in Bellport on June 24th. And you also can come there to get your hand sanitizer that was provided to us from the state of New York. You can also come there and get help to fill out your census report, also to be registered for voting with the NAACP as well. So come there, we will be practicing social distancing, and it is so necessary for you to participate. The census will dictate the next 10 years of our lives and resources that will be provided to us. We have to vote. If you want to change anything, we have to vote. We have to make sure that our community is going to be counted. And of course, you can't do that if you're not alive, okay? So we have to take care of our health and make sure that we are the ones that are looking out for our communities. Yes, we are concerned with all levels of government, but it starts here with our local government, and we need you to do it. We have to do it, okay? So each of us, we have a voice. Make sure that it's heard. Yes, we have to march, but you also have to have action afterward. After your voice is done, after your feet are tired, what are you gonna do? We need action. Thank you for the marches. Thank you for the notes, but we need action. It's not enough, okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that is just the note that we need to end on. We would be absolutely remiss if we did not thank all of our attendees. Thank you for attending. Thank you for your support of Juneteenth as an American celebration. Thank you to all the comments, everyone. Jim, Joanne, Adesawa, Janice, Keisha. Thank you, Chris, Colette. We see you. We see that you're here. Thank you to our council members, Councilman Laval for being here, Councilman Foley. Thank you to each and every one of the Black History Commission members. Mark, Shirley, I see you in the chat. We appreciate each and every one of you. And I believe, Councilwoman, we're going to mute everyone and leave at least one of the flyers up if people didn't have a chance to see. Yes, okay, where the early voting. If you need that information, please take a snapshot. We encourage you to take action. And so that we are moving forward towards racial justice in this country.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here. Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you to all of the commission members, and thank you, Supervisor. Thank you to my colleagues who were able to come on with us. And everyone, enjoy your the rest of your Juneteenth weekend. And I hope that you enjoyed this celebration with us.